The alchemist doesn't blame chemistry. They master it because they run science experiments on life. There are three versions of oneself that are necessary for this video. The first one is the fighter, the second one is the victim, the third one is the alchemist. The fighter is somebody who says, I must fix these things, and creates the pressure of having to win. The issue with this is that it ignores oneself's current chemistry to create a false experiment. If you choose to ignore where you are today, there is a consequence that comes in a future state because you chose not to understand today's science experiment. The victim just says, I want to make sure I'm good today. It's the world's fault. And there are many victims in this world, but you and I are not two of them. We can say a victim is a byproduct of their experience, but chooses not to do anything. The difference is just a science experiment on understanding these variables. Alchemists run their life like a science experiment because they create if-then-because statements, isolate for independent variables, and understand their dependent variables over time. The more you isolate for independent variables in a science experiment, the better your experiments become, and the more concise your if-then statements will evolve to be over time. All of us have our own biological chemistry. Thoughts turn into emotions, emotions turn into vibrations, and it's up for us to focus on which thoughts and emotions create our aura. The alchemist is a science master. They aren't afraid of understanding chemistry. Instead, they create the best possible experiments this world has ever seen. It's the reason why the greatest alchemists have made an ungodly amount of money on their products or received world-renowned research for changing humanity. These science experiments are the reason why we're able to become who we want to be and understand who we are now. It starts with the thoughts. It could be as simple as, I say this thing in my mind for an alchemist. If I say should, for example, was mine. If I say should, then I judge myself because I don't actually act on the word should. And then when you run the experiment of saying should in your mind, like I did with mine, then you could say, oh, I actually felt worse because of this independent variable, or I felt indifferent because of this independent variable. And ultimately, when you write down the results of your experiment, the dependent variables are how you handle your morning or go about your day and understand the one word as a cue in your mind. Another example for me on the thought patterns that I isolated as an alchemist was the word need. I don't say I need, I say I will now. I don't say the word need because if I say the word need, then I imply judgment and force pressure on a situation where I will come to the conclusion with my actions. I ran that science experiment myself, and the alchemist in me decided that the word need was not the one that I placed pressure upon myself with. Instead, I will. And I do it today. The third statement I add into my subconscious mind is, I will do it today. And if I don't do it today, then I will do it first thing tomorrow morning before I take care of the rest of my day. These are all on the thoughts level of my experience. Then, as I stated, thoughts turn into emotions. I feel bad because I didn't do something today. I feel afraid because I didn't take on this challenge. And you can isolate the emotion into an if-then-because statement yourself. These variables of your alchemy come out to the science experiment. A good science experiment understands that you isolate for an independent variable, create an if-then-because statement, have dependent variables, do your research while running the experiment, and then conclude on one of the variables. If you present your life like a science experiment, you get to create scientific results, and it leads to further actions, more alignment, and your highest self presenting itself in the now. The victim mentality is entirely ego-led in many scenarios. The ego says, oh, I'm good now. I don't need it. I don't need to figure it out. I've got this. As I've stated before, you are not your ego. The fighter is ignoring emotions. They are only trying to combat to get to their highest selves. But the difference is with the fighter versus an alchemist, the alignment without experimentation. If you choose to experiment by fighting, there's typically a darker connotation in your mind that leads to habits that don't stick. If you ever see something as dark in your mind and aren't fueled by darkness, it creates this dissonance between the action and the self. If you resonate with all the darkness, then more power to you. Go be a fighter. It's just not the case for more than half of humanity. And ultimately, the alchemist is able to isolate the thoughts, the feelings, to create the highest vibration by running these science experiments. The mastery behind an alchemist isn't knowing what the raw state of your chemistry is, it's turning it into experiments. So the mastery of an alchemist is not just understanding the raw state of your chemistry, it's turning it into experiments. It's not just saying, I felt that. Okay. They turn what's raw alchemy into gold. It becomes a process of mastery through observation first, experimentation second. And most people skip this step. It's a shame. Most people are only the victims in their lives. They say this happened to me, so I won't change. And it's unfortunate. Go be the greatest alchemist the world has ever seen and watch the world vibrate with you. Life doesn't come to you. It comes from you. Are you the master of your fate, or let other people control your destiny? The alchemist has control of these variables and can master the science experiment. The question is, will you master yours? Thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe. I hope this perspective was helpful. Run the best science experiment this world has ever seen, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers.